Take a dry cleaner in Hollywood who parlays his starched collar success into an equally successful and popular nightclub. Then add the guy who was almost cast as Luke Skywalker. Then add the guy who produced JVCD's Double Impact in the 80s, and you have the makings of a potentially significant new film studio that would quickly produce the greatest films of all time. And by greatest, we mean films that would become the worst ranked on Rotten Tomatoes to this day, thereby making them the greatest badly reviewed movies of all time. One of these films that both Dave and I love and absolutely adore, myself at least, even though I've only seen it one time. Two now. We saw it in theaters at the time of its release, and yes, that is in spite of, or perhaps because of, its occasional use of martial arts choreography. But just listen to some of the reviews. 1. If you must see Ecks versus Sever, just go bang your head against the wall for an hour and a half. It would be the same effect. 2. Banderas mopes through this hideous and unintelligible enterprise like a bloodhound with a hangover. That's my favorite, by the way. The backyard battles you stage with your green plastic army men were more exciting and almost certainly made more sense. Next, it's a deluge of bullets and chop-socky madness devoid of style or purpose. And my second favorite, very simple, very simply, efficiently put, non-stop, actively terrible. I'm not sure this is
very actively. It's very active.
It's very
everything in this movie
terrible.
Is very active.
It is. It really is. Honestly, it's a perfect review of this film sometimes. But I'm not sure this is inspiring to anyone listening, or is going to inspire anyone to keep listening. Except that this is the internet era where a train wreck garners more clicks, views, likes, and subscribes than any masterpiece. So, all right, you're definitely hooked. We know. So let's go ahead and run that intro and dig into this movie virtually no one else has covered ever in the history of the world and earn your following forevermore. Run that beautiful bean intro, Dave.
Are you not entertained?
Yes, sir! We'll have a real good time!
He's Dave, and I'm Dallas, and this is Ventertainment. We have opinions on just about everything. Sometimes those opinions are spot on. Sometimes they go down easier with a glass of wine. This is Ventertainment, the wine and entertainment pairing podcast.
Welcome back to Ventertainment. This is the podcast where we pair wine with entertainment. It's as simple as that. And today's guest will be a familiar face to watchers and a familiar voice to listeners, and is once again dialing in all the way from Melbourne, Australia. He joined us for our Miracle Mile episode a few months back, which you definitely should go check out. It has been one of our most listened to episodes. He is considered letterbox royalty by those with no taste and has a lot to say about lots of things. He's also a big collector of music as well, mostly extreme metal CDs, of which he has over 1,200. I briefly name-dropped Metallica in a Discord chat we were having, and he just about threw up. So he's very discerning when it comes to his metal music. Now, Nick and I, we know each other from Letterboxd. We've both been on and off members of a group called The Collab, a Letterboxd club that watches one movie per week, typically movies that aim to get us out of our comfort zones and explore new corners, heights, and depths, like today, of cinema. Members take turns putting together themed polls, and we do ranked choice voting for which movie wins every week. In fact, I just took over as moderator / I suppose you could call it fearless leader of the collab just this week, just in time for my birthday. I turn a stupidly old age this week, took on this new responsibility as one does as you get older. And if you'd like to check out the collab on Letterboxd and perhaps join us, we'll have a link to that in the description of this episode. And now, without further ado, everyone please give a warm welcome back to Nick Langdon.
Thank you. I'm going to demand that all of my entrances be accompanied by recorded applause from now on.
Yeah. We just discovered it last week, so you're welcome.
We're professionals around here.
I'm getting more professional by the minute. Yes.
There you go. It only took us 3 years.
Yeah, so, I mean, my wine taste might be basic, but I was sort of getting one back on Dave with his basic music taste as well. And
I can't disagree.
amen.
Trust me, I can't disagree with that. Dear God.
yeah.
The
And,
number of Carly Rae Jepsen albums we have covered on this podcast because of me. Yeah.
Yeah.
that for Dallas has his face in his hands and not without cause. Yes, so congratulations on your elevation to leadership of the Collab Film Club. And I have to say, I'm not just an on and off member. I've watched 330, which is every theatrical release since June of 2019.
Wow.
Beautiful.
So that's a lot of dedication to some very
Nick is
questionable
dedicated.
films.
I'm on and off. Nick is dedicated.
Right.
Now I'm dedicated too. That's the thing. I have now flipped that switch and have become officially dedicated with this new thing. But now, Nick, go ahead, because you are here to talk about a very specific movie that came up during a collab poll that I put together not too long ago. And go ahead and tell the people what you chose for today's movie, read them the log line, and then tell us why you chose it.
All right. Well, the movie that we're covering, which everybody knows because they've already seen the description of the episode in their podcast app of choice, or the post on your Substack, Vintertainment, is 2002's Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever, a title we will come back to that's both terrible and inaccurate. But I'm actually not the one who's entirely responsible for this. This is largely on you, Dave, because you put together a poll about great duels in movies. And the winning poll for our film club was the 2000 Hong Kong film called The Duel, the Andy Lau film. This was one of the losers. And then you and I were talking on Discord about our interest in sort of mediocre action movies of the 2000s, and then we decided that we'd love to cover this one, and that's how we're here on the podcast. So I'll take partial blame for this, but not all the blame for this, or all the credit, depending on how much Dallas loves this movie.
Well. Here's I will take you a step back further. Actually, this is one of the things Dave and I mentioned in a conversation. But Dave and I probably 15 years ago now bonded over this dumb film that I was in a bit of a haze about because I had no idea that anyone else hated this film. I thought it was fantastic, and Dave and I bonded over it. And so over the years, we've been trying to find a way to work it into this damn show. And you came along with this poll, and here we are.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well, and we discovered that we'd both seen it in the theater and never since. And we both thought it was wonderful. Yeah. We thought we had fond memories. We walked out of the theater as young 20-somethings being like, fuck yeah, that was 100%, amazing. 100%. And then I looked it up.
You must have walked out of you must have walked out of a pretty empty theater based on this movie's box office receipts.
This is true. This is true. Now, I probably wasn't paying any attention at that age. I was just like, I'm in the theater. This is great. I probably went opening night because I saw the trailer and I thought it just looked amazing. And I knew this movie did not have a great rep. But when I looked it up, I was like, oh my God, zero. It is one of the only zero movies that has, I think, 117 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
119, apparently, it's up to now.
Yeah.
So nobody seems to like this movie. And we had the fact that Dallas had the exact same fond memory blew my mind. So I was like, all right, we have to cover this sometime. And when you expressed interest too, I was like, F it, it's time. Let's see how this movie holds up or doesn't.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, so like as with Dallas's intro there, I too first heard about this movie. I didn't go see it in the theaters, but I heard about it through its terrible reputation through those reviews. Let me quickly mention a couple of other of my favorite descriptions, which it was described at the time as, quote, a picture for idiots, boring to an amazing degree, a fine achievement in stupidity and dullness, giving new meaning to the word incoherent. And one critic suggested an alternative title would be Simplistic, Bullets versus Humans, while the Washington Post summed it up by saying, you could run this film backwards, soundtrack included, and it would make no less sense.
All valid.
So... all valid, but also all kind of interesting because you sort of go, okay, how bad can it possibly be? And the answer, I think, not to spoil everything in advance, is not nowhere near that bad. But a lot of that ties into how actually bad Rotten Tomatoes is. I think most people who know movies know this, but just really quickly, they have an absolutely binary approach. Either something is good or bad, what they call fresh or rotten. So that if something's bad, it doesn't matter if it's, there was something going on here, but it didn't quite work, or this movie is total dog shit. That is the same.
Right.
And the same with the positive reviews. A movie can be, it's okay, versus 5-star masterpiece. That's still the same with Rotten Tomatoes. So that's why you'll see some mediocre superhero movie, 98% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. But then again, 98% of those reviews could be, meh, it was all right. And that's why Rotten Tomatoes is, most people consider it a net negative for online film criticism.
I do agree with that. I usually, if there's an audience score, I try to look at both together and kind of see like, okay, and especially because audiences are much more forgiving than critics more often than not. I think Cinema Score is usually the one that can be a bit more on point in terms of like crowds and like the people who actually went to go see the movies who aren't professionals. But that said, this movie is pretty freaking low on the audience score too. Like everyone seems to have drunk the Kool-Aid.
Universally, seriously.
Right. Yeah. So even taking that into consideration, I don't know. Like we'll get into it here in just a moment, but yeah, this movie is not as actively wretched as its reputation seems to let on, or at least I didn't think so. And I wonder how much of this is just the snowball effect of like when something hits these depths, this rock bottom percentage, everyone's got to kind of like jump on that train and be like, yeah, oh my God. Because it's not a masterpiece. Let's be honest about that too. And so the fact that it isn't amazing and has this reputation means that, instead of the meh, people just dogpile onto the, this is absolute dog shit. And I'm like, but is it?
Yeah, and I think the corollary of that is some films that sometimes I think people don't feel that they particularly respond to, but there is that sort of herd mentality that, you can't criticize this, it's Martin Scorsese or whoever the in vogue, Jordan Peele, whoever the in vogue director of the time is. There's a sort of cultural pressure or group think to go along and say this is a masterpiece, when you read sometimes the reviews and they're kind of like, I think I liked it. You're like, okay, there's something else going on.
It's
here.
odd. It's weird because for me with this site, there is that bandwagon effect that you guys are talking about, but there's a social media component too, where if something is really low, people seem to do their best to keep it as low as possible. It is a weird thing. I've seen it with a number of films, and a few years ago there was this site that was an offshoot of or working in comparison in relationship with Rotten Tomatoes. And they sent out a couple of calls for some short film stuff. And so I was in that fray. And a lot of the people we were talking to were like constant posters on Rotten Tomatoes. And there was this sort of sentiment to kind of punish things that seem to be universally bad. And I still don't understand that. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but it does kind of mirror exactly what you guys are saying. But Rotten Tomatoes is a curious place, and I like to steer clear of it as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I completely agree. There is like this pile-on effect, like two fairly recent, or not that recent, but films that I really noticed it happening with was Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice and the remake of Hellboy. Now, I'm not going to say either of those two films are masterpieces either, but if you think those are the worst films of all time, my friend, you've not seen bad films.
True. I mostly agree with the Hellboy one. Batman versus Superman, that is definitely one of the... Don't do it. I really struggled with that one.
Did you see the 3-hour director's cut?
Yes.
God no. No. It wasn't I wasn't struggling because I needed more story. I was struggling with everything that was there in front of me, and I'm like, none of this is interesting or something I want to spend more minutes with, and there were so many minutes in the non-director's cut to begin with. So that one, I mean, is it one of the worst movies ever made?
The director's cut does actually feel shorter because it makes sense. But anyway,
I agree with
that.
Yeah.
Fair, I suppose. But yeah, Snyder, I know for a fact that like I don't like 300. Like I do not like Snyder. He really rubs me the wrong way in his style, his voice, his aesthetic. I just do the only movie of his I have ever liked is his Dawn of the Dead remake. I think that is actually an authentically well done movie. And starting with 300, I almost turned 300 off. I was just like, God, I can't get through these movies. And everything he's made since has been like 300 plus and just leaning into that style like more and more. And I'm like, okay, not for me. I just think I can't get into him. Yeah.
My problem with Snyder is he seems to, and you see it in 300 and the Dawn film, but he seems to take every moment and make it as precious as possible. And he does it in different ways, either slowing down the action, of course, or this sort of laborious kind of like shot on shot on shot, different perspective of the same fucking shot. And it's just after a certain point, you're like, no, we got that. We got that the first time you did it. You don't need to slow it down. You don't need to, it just is so.
Yeah. But he gets
The
that.
use of slow-mo makes it boring. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets that from his inspirations like Tony Scott and Michael Bay, who deliver that maximalist, every shot has to be the most spectacular in the movie kind of thing.
Agreed.
But, you can't criticize a lot of slow-mo in this movie while praising Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever in any way.
Hey, calm down, buddy. Hey,
we'll get
watch
to that.
me.
Hey now.
Watch
How dare
me.
you? How dare you?
Here we go.
So,
Watch us work.
just to give the log line on this film, which
Yes.
appositely enough doesn't really describe it, but here we go. Tasked with destroying each other, an FBI agent and a rogue DIA agent soon discover that a much bigger enemy is at work.
Yeah.
That's all we get.
And honestly, that is the setup, kind of like minus all the details. But
Yes.
yeah, it's the setup. It's the setup.
It is a bare bones log line which doesn't give you any of the sort of nonsensical minutia of this film sometimes. Which again, I still love it. I won't bury the lead on that. I still fucking love it. But yeah, that log line is empty and full at the same time. And now it's time for the wine trivia question of the week. As the first great traders of wine, exporting from their Levantine, by the way, I love that word, ports, the Phoenicians, present-day Lebanon, seem to have protected their wine from oxidation with a layer of olive oil, followed by a seal of pine, wood, and resin. As a result, this Mediterranean wine is said to have been created during these journeys.
Yes.
Is it A, vermouth, B, Retsina, C, Vermentino, or D, Moscio Filero? Your options are A, vermouth, B, Retsina, C, Vermentino, and D, Moscio Filero.
All right, I do know the answer to this one, Nick. It's going to be super easy for me. The only thing I even paired this type of wine with Under the Skin, the Scarlett Johansson movie by I'm forgetting the director, the birth director. What's his name?
Glasser. Is it?
Glasser. Yeah. And because it was like this type of wine tastes like what if you gave a description of wine to an alien and they tried to replicate it, this is probably what you would get.
This is exactly what they'd come up with. Yes.
It's like it's very off-putting and it's out there. So what I'll go ahead and give you a second and then I'll
and actually there's a hint in the pronunciation of the word. Honestly, there's a very near sort of clue.
Yes. So you can't be talking about my beloved Vermentinos then. So I'm going to guess B and guess Retsina.
There we are. That is correct. It is Retsina. Pew, pew, pew. That's right, Retsina. As you know, Dave, tell us about Retsina. As far as I know, it is a Greek sort of permutation.
So the pine resin, when you seal the top with the pine resin, they didn't have a lot of good options for keeping wine away from oxygen at the time to actually give it an airtight seal. So they used the pine resin. It would seep through like where they had put it. The air wouldn't get to it, but the pine resin would. And so that would actually soak into the wine. It would give it this piney, like very car air freshener quality. And it takes a little getting used to. I was working at the blending lab, one of the wineries I used to work at, and this Greek lady came in. And she corrected all my pronunciations of everything, like as we were talking. So I knew about a lot of her wine.
Got some work to do.
Yeah. She was like, no. She's like, what? And I'm like, and I try again, and she's like, oh. And then she'd like try and school me. Like she would wait until I got it right. I was like, damn, okay. But she was also, when I brought up Retsina, I'm like, I just had my first Retsina. I just paired it with Under the Skin, and I mean, she was like, wah. She's like, ugh. She's like, that's what you drink when you're a college kid and you're broke and like you get, drunk to the point of throwing up in the street. And like we all have terrible memories of it afterwards in our adulthood. So that is Retsina in the modern day Greece, apparently, if you grew up there. But there are some quote unquote fine wine Retsinas that at least in American wine shops, they're selling for like $20 to $30. So they ain't cheap. They ain't cheap. And yeah, that is Retsina.
It is.
Yum. All right. Now, before we get to our movie, everybody listening, please don't forget to follow us and subscribe to this pod if you love what we do here. We watch films like Ecks versus Sever for you. We get nothing out of that. All right. And we figure out how best to get drunk while watching such films for you. We absolutely get nothing out of that. This is a service and you're welcome. So you might as well subscribe and get a whole bunch more of this. And while you're at it, leave a review. We love reading them. It is especially if that review is particularly insightful, interesting, or just a good old fluffer of a review, we will probably read it on the pod. What do you like about the show? Exactly. We love some fluffing. What do you like about the show? What would you add or subtract or otherwise change? If you could have us change something, post that review and we would love to hear the feedback. And lastly, don't forget we have a Substack, entertainmentstudios.com, where you can interact with us, find bonus wine and movie pairings, and also make sure to check out Wine Cellar Cinema, our new micro cinema built inside a wine shop here in Mid-City, Los Angeles. Our first night of short films paired with wine went swimmingly back in June, on Juneteenth. And we plan to keep that happening once per month with your support and attendance, of course. So check for updates there on winecellarcinema.substack.com, entertainmentstudios.com, winecellarcinema.substack.com. All right, now it's time for the Elevage section. Elevage refers to the crucial post-fermentation period when wine undergoes development, maturation, and refinement before release. So some brief Elevage on the making of Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever. When you own a dry cleaner in the middle of Hollywood, you make lots of celebrity connections. And if you're enterprising, you turn these connections into business ventures, like an incredibly popular Hollywood nightclub, the Roxbury, forever immortalized in the SNL feature film A Night at the Roxbury. Then, once you're bored, you could, again, if you're enterprising, turn that very popular nightclub into a film studio, which you built out with the partnership of actor Andrew Stevens, who was almost cast as Luke Skywalker, that's that guy, and Ashok Amritraj, who produced Double Impact a few years earlier. And you would call that studio Franchise Pictures. In 1997, Lebanese-American Eli Samaha, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think so. Eli or Eli, it's E-L-I-E. I want to kind of say
it's Eli Wiesel, so I'm gonna. It's
okay. So let's do Eli.
Yeah.
So let's say Eli Samaha created a film studio which would become known for producing projects that major studios often passed on. So they were basically Netflix before there was streaming. In 1998, Franchise signed a deal with Morgan Creek Productions and Warner Brothers Pictures for distribution in the US and UK. Their first film under this agreement was 1998's A Murder of Crows, starring Cuba Gooding Jr. and Tom Berenger. Don't forget, in 1998, those were both still major stars. And all signs pointed to a potentially successful outlook with 1999's Boondock Saints, another fan favorite of mine I have not seen since I originally rented it way back in the day, and I fear for how well that actually holds up. And 2000's The Whole Nine Yards and Get Carter being critically acclaimed and financially successful productions. But this
not Get Carter. That was everybody hated it, and it was a massive bomb.
Oh, not in America.
Not here.
I don't think so. Wait. I'm thinking Get Shorty, aren't I?
Yes,
Get
Shorty.
Shorty.
That's what I'm thinking of too. That's right.
Fudge, I'm thinking Get
That's
Shorty. Okay.
No,
I am
Get
too.
Carter, not a success.
Wait,
The
what was good? Get Carter.
The
Michael
1971
Caine?
Get Carter was with Michael Caine, and it's just
Yes.
absolutely one of the most brutally cold, bleak crime revenge movies ever made. And then Stallone remade it as an ego-stroking project in 2001, and it was a flop, and everybody hated it. Get Shorty is a much beloved classic from 1996.
There you go.
Thank you for that correction,
All right.
Nick.
We are wiping out that. So to rephrase this question, or to repeat this question with that excluded, 1999's Boondock Saints and 2000's The Whole Nine Yards being critically acclaimed and financially successful productions. But this proved to be a classic case of things going all too well, all too soon. Their first major flop in terms of how much they spent versus how much they made was on the horizon.
Now, let's jump back in time a bit. L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, had written a late-career science fiction book entitled Battlefield Earth, published in 1982 after the American Psychological Association passed a resolution stating that claims in his earlier book, Dianetics, were not supported by empirical evidence. Battlefield was also written with the hope that a young Hollywood it-boy named John Travolta, who had already been recruited into the organization, would play the lead and turn it into a mega franchise building movie. That's a big ask. Note that Scientology's approach to recruiting celebrities had always been a part of its makeup. Hubbard is on record as having stated that people listen to movie stars more than scientists, and had laid out a plan early in Scientology's existence to make certain the church recruited them in numbers. Unfortunately, Travolta's star power was waning at the time, and the cost involved to make a science fiction epic was not then possible. Fast forward to 1994, and thanks to Quentin Tarantino's chestnut Pulp Fiction, John Travolta found himself an A-lister again and ready to put his energy behind a big passion project. Re-enter Battlefield Earth.
Don't forget a successful turn in Get Shorty.
It's a very successful turn in Get Shorty. This is very true. It's full circle, full circle. After a few preliminary deals with MGM and Fox, the word on the street was that the film was too risky on a number of fronts. 1, the budget too high. 2, the themes outdated. And 3, the Scientology factor was far, far too unpopular. The film was dead in the water, and even Travolta's middle-aged swinging hips couldn't save it. But this was all chum in the water for franchise pictures. After learning of the Battlefield Earth project via Cassian Elwes, William Moore's super agent and brother of actor Cary Elwes, our former dry cleaner Samaha approached Travolta. A deal was struck, and we all know the story. Battlefield Earth became an epic miss. Eager to move beyond the fiasco and hoping to capitalize on the success of The Matrix, Franchise Pictures set their sights on their latest project, which would eventually become Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever.
The script had more than a few iterations. In 1986, screenwriter Alan B. McElroy, the writer of Spawn, which is another movie that we have covered on this podcast. If you want to hear a little bit more about Alan B. McElroy and how he came to Spawn, he wrote both the feature film and the HBO animated show. So go take a listen to that to hear a little bit more about him. We're not going to cover too much of his backstory in this one. But Alan B. McElroy wrote a spec titled Legion about an ex-cop who's called in to help track down a rogue CIA agent named Legion who's accused of a killing spree. The script was put on the shelf as McElroy went on with partner Dwight Little to make Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers in 1988. But once their Halloween venture was done, they returned to the Legion script and retitled it Gunner, with Dolph Lundgren, hot off of Rocky IV, attached to star, though this iteration also failed to see the light of day. Then, a full decade later, a film materialized after the script was given to writer Peter M. Lenkov, one of the writers on Demolition Man, the writer of the abysmal Universal Soldier 2 and 3 TV sequels, and the man who successfully rebooted Hawaii Five-0, MacGyver, and Magnum P.I. before he was fired for fostering a toxic workplace environment at CBS. Lenkov rewrote the script adding bigger action sequences and more matrixy and nanotech themes. Lenkov did not ultimately get writing credit on the final film, even though the original writer McElroy, the sole credited writer, has said the script that was shot bears little resemblance to his original.
So yes, this is kind of the franchise pictures model as well too. So the way that they tended to do business was that they got these movie stars to bring their pet projects that they couldn't get funded elsewhere, as mentioned before. And how they would do this would be basically say that we'll not give you much or if any money up front, but we'll make the pictures that no one else will. So like you were just mentioning with Battlefield Earth, no other studio in town wanted to touch that because even in the late 90s, L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology were pretty radioactive. And, of course, another Sylvester Stallone classic that got made at franchise was Driven, his IndyCar racing film. If you're a fan of sort of fat period Steven Seagal, Half Past Dead is another iconic franchise.
I mean, franchise seems to be like the new Canon, or Golden Globus or Canon. Which one am I thinking of there?
Canon.
Yeah, Canon. Yeah, it was kind of like that. Except remember, Canon went bankrupt because they paid Sylvester Stallone $15 million up front to make Over the Top, the famous arm wrestling.
Yes.
Right. So the budget for Ballistic, Ecks vs. Sever is originally was listed at 70 million, but has been revised down since then to 35 million. And this was ultimately what brought down franchise. Our friend Samara, how do you say his name? Eli. He financed these films with partnering with this German company called Entertainment AG, and then they would contribute a fixed proportion of the film's production budget in exchange for distribution rights in certain territories. And then what our hero would do was inflate the production budget so this percentage would go up. So, for example, if a film actually cost $40 million to make, then franchise would tell its investment partner it cost $60 million to make. So that 47% of the budget would go from 18 million to 28 million, and franchise got to pocket the difference. And so in 2004, he was found guilty of massive fraud, and the company was shut down, and he was ordered to repay the people he ripped off.
And they had to repay a certain amount, and he was personally liable for a big chunk of it as well.
Personally, because that's right. He was running this scam as well. He really should have stuck to the celebrity dry cleaning industry, an industry that could only ever exist.
He should have just done the basic Hollywood accounting and not gone quite as overboard with the fraud as he did. But
that's right. Regular creative fraud. Hollywood accounting.
Don't get creative.
So I don't know the full backstory here, but this is how the Thai director, which
Kayosanada,
aka Chaos
Sayananda. Yeah. Sayananda.
Chaos Sayananda.
Sayananda. Yes. Chaos Sayananda.
I can see why he abbreviated his name to Chaos for the benefit of us English speakers.
Yes.
Anyway, he was a Thai as director, but he apparently was a rich kid who'd bought his way into the Thai film industry, which is how he got to make his directorial debut in 1998 with a film called Far at the age of just 24, which was at the time apparently the biggest budgeted film in Thailand's history, costing about $960,000 at the time, and starring two of the biggest Thai actors at the time, and an American who I've not heard of, Don Tai, who went on to be a reputable stuntman working for the John Wick stunt group 8711. So that film was a box office failure, but because seemingly he had money and connections, that's how he ended up over in the US with Franchise Pictures, trying to do something different with this script. Originally written by Witch or Chaos himself, but heavily criticised for being weak, with characters acting illogically and inconsistently, to say the very least. And of course, then, as you just mentioned, rewritten to the point of incoherence by several other people. Then the film was edited to the point of incoherence, and so on and so on and so on. So that's kind of interestingly background of this dodgy company and how they recruited this kid basically from Thailand to come over and helm a fairly big budget action picture.
Yeah, even if the budget was not 70 million but 35 million, and according to which it was roughly 16 million as an actual production budget. So everything else went to above the line. Yeah.
Right. And most of that was spent on pyrotechnics. So yeah, his original idea was,
every dollar of it was
Honestly, yeah.
you can't say the money's not there on screen. It's all blowing up in front of you.
Can I say, when we get to Act 3 of this movie, I think my literal plot synopsis is everything explodes. Everything.
Yeah. There's not an intact train left in Vancouver by the end of Act 3 of this film. So yeah, originally his pitch for this was the 1968 Steve McQueen film Bullet, although you'd have to get a scanning electron microscope to find any of Bullet's DNA left in Ballistic.
Yes.
So that was kind of his idea with that. Yes, he wanted Chow Yun-fat and Jean Reno in the lead roles, two sort of 90s action heroes. He wanted as the killer versus the professional. And then, of course, the studio, I don't think, could afford those actors. And then they went through sort of Wesley Snipes and
they're not good enough. They're not good enough. We probably couldn't afford them.
Before even going down to like Sylvester Stallone and Vin Diesel, lesser names, but in the case of Stallone, especially one who already had an association with franchise pictures.
Right.
So, which came that it was his idea to make Sever a woman, and there was a Hong Kong actress that he wanted but never named, who apparently turned the role down. The producers wanted Michelle Yeoh, since Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon had just been released and was a massive international hit, but either she didn't work out. And you can imagine Maggie Cheung or others such as Xu Chi or Zhao Wei in the lead role, and I'm sure Dave could name a dozen other Hong Kong action badasses of the time. And, of course, he also then had ended up with Antonio Banderas, who was apparently suggested by Lucy Liu, who ended up playing the role, who was pretty hot.
Oh, he suggested Lucy Liu, actually, the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, it was him, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they cast him first, and then they were like, "We want a woman." All our other attempts failed, and then according to the director, it was Antonio Banderas that suggested her.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too, because Lucy Liu was not known as an action star for the for the most of her career. She'd broken out on TV in Ally McBeal, and then she didn't do an action film until 2000, when she was in both Charlie's Angels and Shanghai Noon. Right. And then later she did Kill Bill and sort of got this more of a reputation of being like an action movie star, but she really wasn't at the time. Whereas, of course, Antonio Banderas was pretty hot off Desperado and the Mask of Zorro.
Zorro, yes.
And then beyond Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu, the film additionally stars Talisa Soto, hot off of the Mortal Kombat franchise. Ray Park.
Only Dave would say hot.
I say hot. Ray Park, who honestly, his role as Darth Maul in the Star Wars The Phantom Menace, it did put him. I was a martial arts aficionado, a movie aficionado, so that did put him on my radar because of that.
Can I just say though that not quite to the mainstream, because I was a Star Wars fan as a kid, but I don't think the majority of the public knew who Ray Park was. I think hardcore fans and martial arts fans...
I wasn't a Star Wars fan, so I think that's the difference. I was just the martial arts fan. And so when I heard that he was in this and that he was making the lightsaber battles like so much cooler, and I was like, ooh. And then I saw it. And like, did I like The Phantom Menace? Not really. Did I really love his lightsaber battles? Fuck yeah. Just like this movie, right? It was like I had a very fuck yeah response to things like that. So Ray Park, I don't think I recognized he was in this movie when I saw it in the theater. I think that is like a truth as well. It's like he was under Darth Maul.
Because he wasn't wearing the Darth Maul makeup.
Exactly. So it's like, would I recognize Ray Park? But this time when I watched it, the moment he came on screen, I'm like, oh, fuck, that's Ray Park. I was like, okay, so we are going to get some, at least one. And sure enough, we get like one fight, martial arts fight near the end with Ray Park and Lucy Liu. And then it also stars Miguel Sandoval, hot off of Air Bud World Pup, which everyone would say that film's a masterpiece. And stock Hollywood bad guy for hire, Greg Henry, as the main villain, Robert Gant. Now, production...
I was going to say, shout out to my letterbox friend Odie, who I convinced to work his way through all of the Air Bud movies.
Oh, man.
Nice.
Never.
There's got to be 8 of those now, right?
I think there's 5 in the main sequence, and then there was a spin-off universe as well.
Yeah.
And they're actually just rebooting it this year, so...
I mean, for me, only World Pup. That's the only... No, I'm just kidding. I haven't seen any of them. The production occurred primarily in Vancouver, and according to which it was a total blast. But post-production was hell. The producers took the edit away from him, removed the original composer, replaced it with an electronic soundtrack, and which never saw the final movie until it was released. He claims it's not the movie he set out to make. Even though, and I will say, you cannot find his original Fa movie with subtitles, but you can find it on YouTube without subtitles.
Without subtitles, yeah.
And I did kind of skip through the whole thing. And man, I got to tell you, all the DNA of this movie is right there. It's kind of hard not to see it, to unsee it once you've seen it. So he definitely shot every shot. Now, maybe the edit, maybe the story, maybe how it barely makes any sense. Maybe that's something, because he said that his original, we mentioned before, it was really, the script was terrible in his original movie. And even he recognized that. He's like, yeah, I was young. And even according to him in interviews, he's like, the script sucks. Like, it was not good. So maybe he really wanted to do a better job with this one. And he was really disappointed with how the edit turned out. That I don't know. But according to him, not the movie he set out to make. And this is where, of course, Franchise Pictures got into legal trouble, was sued, and had to declare bankruptcy on August 18th, 2004. The rights to Ballistic are today primarily held by the German company MHF Zweit Academy Film, the parent group to the funds used to finance the movie. And unfortunately, this film is difficult to come by. If not, it's not currently streaming on any platform. It has not been re-released on physical media in decades. So good luck out there if you want to dig up this masterpiece after listening to everything we have to say about it. But also, we have to note, there were 2 video games. And no matter what we're about to say regarding the movie, the 2 Ecks versus Sever video games released as first-person shooters for the Game Boy Advance. The first was titled just Ecks vs. Sever, was released before the movie in November 2001. It is based on an earlier draft of the movie script, and the game, unlike the film, consistently scores high with critics with an average rating of 9 out of 10.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The sequel game, with the full title Ballistic, Ecks vs. Sever, or Ecks vs. Sever 2, Ballistic in the UK, follows the film's plotline much more closely and once again received positive reviews, and both are considered to be 2 of the best first-person shooters for the Game Boy Advance ever released. Thus endeth the Elevage of Ecks versus Sever.
Just really quickly, though, people have pointed that out. They actually called the movie an adaptation of the games, or a spin-off from the games, because the games were so much better liked. And it is so strange that it came out, was it 10 months ahead of the movie? Like, I remember people made jokes about before GoldenEye 007 was released on the N64, because it came out in 1997, 2 years after GoldenEye, the film. And everyone's like, who cares about a 2-year-old movie? And then, of course, it turned out to be one of the best first-person shooters ever made.
Great video games. By the way, if you want some real entertainment, go into any of the sort of chat rooms, or if chat rooms are still a thing, discussing this film. You'll find people who were introduced to the IP via the video game, and then went back and watched the film. Some
I was going to say, you got to upgrade your lingo there, Dallas. They're not chat rooms.
Yeah, your Yahoo chat rooms.
But it's funny too, because the usual thing is that there's a good movie, and then they pay some studio like rock bottom prices to knock out a shitty game just to tie it in. It's so rare to have a good game tied into what's considered a shitty movie.
And now we enter the section where we break down the movie into 3 acts and discuss both our thoughts on the movie and how they evolved act by act, and also how our wine pairing thoughts evolved on top of that, ending with our respective perfect wine pairings for the movie. For Ballistic Ecks versus Sever, Act 1 is spoiler-free, but Act 2 is stupidly plot-twisty, so don't venture beyond Act 1 if you don't want to know the impossible 90s style plot twist in advance. And here we go. Act 1. Driving home, Vin, played by Talisa Soto, is stopped by agents from the Defense Intelligence Agency, or the DIA, and they take her son Michael, on the orders of Michael's father and Vin's ex-husband, DIA director Robert Gant, played by Greg Henry, then is furious, but can't stop them. Then, on the way to Gant, the group is ambushed by Sever, played by Lucy Liu, who kidnaps Michael. Elsewhere, FBI agent Jeremiah Ecks, played by Antonio Banderas, drinks in a bar and mourns his wife, who died many, many years ago. His old boss, Julio Martin, played by Miguel Sandoval, asks him to return to investigate the Gant case in exchange for information on his wife, Rain, who he claims is in fact still alive. But he won't reveal more information until Ecks finishes the assignment. X agrees and begins to hunt Sever, realizing she must be one of the orphan Chinese girls, female babies who weren't wanted by families during China's one-child policy and so adopted by the DIA and trained for assassin work, violence being the only thing they've ever known. Meanwhile, Gant executes the only surviving member of Michael's entourage for having lost his son before ordering his elite agents, led by his right-hand man, Ross, played by Ray Park, to pursue Sever and rescue Michael. The first major set piece occurs in a public space, with Gant's agents cornering Sever, but seemingly only because she lets them, and proceeds to wipe the floor with them while causing maximum collateral damage to Vancouver's infrastructure. X and Julio soon arrive. Sever shoots Julio, who possibly dies, tells X that Sever knows where his wife is. So X gives chase. While Sever is methodical and precise, X is a pure brawler, surviving by the skin of his teeth, but virtually fearless in his pursuit of a suspect. Sever escapes, but takes note that X demanded information about his wife. All right, what are we thinking here, boys?
That's roughly the first 30 minutes. What are we thinking? Nick, what did you think when you started this movie?
Well, I'm just going to say that I think Dallas has done very, very well there, because I asked ChatGPT to summarize the plot of Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever, and this is the verbatim response I got. Quote, "This may be the first time you've given me a task where the correct response begins, 'I can try, but no promises.'" Now,
I love everything about this movie, by the way.
I know. Now, famously, the fact that this film went through multiple rewrites with a script originating in the 1980s, then I think also possibly because, not to be uncharitable, but you're dealing with a writer-director who English is not his first language. And then, of course, the film was taken away from him and recut against his wishes in post-production, rendering the end result fairly incoherent, even including, for example, why this is all happening in Vancouver when the DIA and FBI are two US domestic agencies. Like, why are they having this fight in a foreign country, and why aren't the Mounties intervening?
Never explained.
Never explained.
I mean, it's shot in Vancouver, but it's like, you don't have to tell us that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you can pretend it's somewhere
Numerous
else.
times, too. Numerous times they mention Vancouver.
Yeah, as you know, like, a lot of Hollywood movies are shot in Vancouver, but they usually at least try and pretend it's Portland or Seattle or the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they try and pretend it's LA or New York and just, compose in the skylines that into the background very unconvincingly because it still looks like rainy Vancouver.
Right.
But anyway, they just said, fuck it, let's just set it in Vancouver. So this is actually a great film to show off Vancouver if you've been there, but it doesn't make any sense for the story.
No.
And so just the other thing too is that the biggest problem with the film and why people have so much trouble connecting with it, especially during this first act, is that the film seems determined to withhold information as long as possible. And this is something that a screenplay really needs to get right, the pace at which crucial information for the plot is revealed. In sort of any film, if the characters are too far behind the audience, it's very frustrating watching them slowly try and put the pieces together. But if they're too far ahead of the audience, then that audience gets confused and disengaged. And then you sort of need your regular Christopher Nolan-style exposition dumps to bring everybody sort of up to speed. Yeah. So the pace at which information is revealed is usually the marker of a really good screenplay and a really good film. And that's where this one suffers. And I do mostly not so much blame the script, but the editing, where a lot of times if a movie tests poorly, what they'll do is that they'll cut much of the talking as they can, but leave in all the action, all the money shots. And you can't say that this film doesn't deliver on the action. It absolutely does. But it really feels like there's about 15 minutes of exposition and backstory establishing who all these people are, their interrelationships, and the stakes of the situation, and
also
why
how they get from anywhere to anywhere else. What the hell? They are literally like in one place, and then it's just like, and now we're here, and I'm like, whoa, why are you there? Well, give us something. So, Dallas, how much did you still like this movie? And just go with the first act. Just go with the first act.
First act. Let's start with first act. Here's the thing. When we rewatch movies here that I haven't seen in a while, and I am a guy who will, if it's something I really enjoy, I actively only watch it once because I want it to remain good in my memory. Yeah. And approaching this for the second time, Act 1, the opening sequence was fantastic to me. It was, I wasn't expecting cinema. I was not expecting a treatise on any sort of true human experience. I wasn't. I was expecting to see something that felt like an 80s blockbuster, mid-80s blockbuster film done with late 90s tech. And that's precisely what I got. It felt like a terrestrial Matrix, if that makes sense, right? So the Matrix was so CGI heavy and so glossy and so slick and so patent leather, everything about it. The whites were crisp, everything. It's just sort of, it's clearly a computer sort of endeavor. This film, Act 1, felt like a terrestrial treatment on a similar concept. And I fucking loved it. Act 1 is just the perfect onboarding to me. I was sitting here going, I wonder why everyone hates this, because I think this is great. Is the storytelling, is the script fantastic? Absolutely not. But it gives you, there's so many sort of holes in plot, and at the same time, so much exposition and so.
But in Act 1, there's no holes yet. To be fair,
well, there are holes in the sense that what I'm saying, there's holes
true.
In the
there's no plot twist yet. The whole Act 1 actually makes total sense.
Well, that's my point.
Well, all the dialogue is a series of cryptic statements alluding to events that will never be explained.
Yes. Precisely. So those are the holes I'm referencing. It's like, it's just this sort of like, those are words. Oh, interesting. Okay, those are. So
I'm going to push back. I'm going to push back on that a little bit, because I think everything in Act 1 actually, and I'm not saying this to defend the movie because it drops the ball big time on all of these weird plot twists, but in Act 1, it is setting everything up properly. I do think in like the first 30 minutes, where it's like, I lost my wife. She might still be alive. Do we know anything about this wife? No, that's a little weird. But like, we don't see flashbacks. We don't see anything, right? No, normally that's what you'd get. But you understand what the assignment is. It's like his wife, he thought she was dead. She might be alive. The fact that they're not showing you anything, is meaningful. They can't show you anything because that would give something away. Or at least hopefully so, because that's the only reason they should not be showing us anything.
Right.
But you're like, okay, there's a reason they're not showing us that, and that's intriguing. I found myself once again getting absorbed by the weirdness of the narrative. And at least at this point, it does make sense. It's just weird how it's being executed.
All right. I think the reality, I think we land between someplace between weird and plot hole for sure. But but I agree. Act 1 for me, and I keep coming back to this sort of like terrestrial version of the Matrix, because I do remember when this film came out, I'm not sure if I saw it in order to kind of reject the Matrix concept, because that's kind of my personality sometimes. It was like, I'm not going to see that. I'm going to see this, but it felt so accessible. It felt so accessible. Act 1, there's great mystery. Like you said, we get the, go ahead. What were you going to say? No,
I was just going to say, I mean, until the high-tech element is introduced, which is somewhere, I think it's basically Act 2 that gets introduced, like, and is mentioned in specific. this is like, there's no high concept to this. It's
Right.
very plain and straightforward. It's only later that I realized, because you're trying to give, I think in any act one, you're kind of giving the story the benefit of the doubt in terms of like, you're going to lead me somewhere. So I don't know what's going on exactly, but that's okay, because you're like Nick said, it's all cryptic. Like plainly it's meant to be mysterious. So, okay, let's go where you're taking me and you'll reveal the mystery when we get there. But there are some problems with the narrative in terms of, only later was I like, one, they never really establish like Talisa Soto and Gant. I'm like, are they married? Are they divorced?
Yes.
Are they
Yes.
estranged?
Yes.
Like, what is their, where
What's the
even are
relationship?
they in their relationship? And they just sort of jump from one thing where he's taking her son out of the car, like a custody battle. But then when the son's missing, it's like they're living together again. And I'm like, wait, are you living together? And the script never comes out and says one thing or another. So the audience doesn't actually know what these two characters are to each other.
That's the sort of thing I'm driving at, what Dave's talking about there. It's like, we need to know this relationship better between the major characters. Like, for example, what's the relationship between Gant and Sever?
Right.
Yeah,
Why is Ecks recruited when he's moping in a bar? Weren't there more active non-alcoholic agents who could be recruited to do this job?
Right. Who weren't still moping. What was the quote?
We're
Who weren't
good.
still
Like
moping.
you have no other. He's like, you're our only hope. You're the only one that can do this. And I'm like,
Right.
You have no one else as good as this guy.
Yeah.
Like,
Who's still moping at a bar. Right. 8 years later.
Yeah, so there is a thing with like movies where you don't have to explain everything straight up. It's okay for inexplicable things to happen, but the expectation the audience has is that they will eventually be addressed. When they're not eventually addressed, that retroactively weakens that mystery setup. So you want to get to the movie at the end and go, that's what everything meant. Whereas if you end the movie still with a lot of questions, that's when it feels like the narrative will be unsatisfying, even if in many other cases, like the action, the cinematography, that really does satisfy.
Yeah, there's very little work done here in sort of making the audience care about these characters.
Everyone's a stereotype.
Right.
Yeah,
and for example, like
Sever,
you talk about the end of Act 1. Lucy or Sever doesn't have a line of dialogue until about 30 minutes into the movie.
Yes.
And you go, okay, they're playing her as this strong, silent type, but it's also, there's no character there. It's like, why do we need to care about Agent Sever? Like, at least we know X has got a dead wife. The classic Christopher Nolan motivation.
Right. And he's drinking himself silly, but is still competent even when drunk.
Right.
Can still take down other FBI agents at the drop
He's
of
the
a hat.
only guy who can get the job done still.
And I was talking with Nick on Discord shortly before we started recording, and we basically mentioned the fact that like this movie, like the plot twists are the plot. Like there is ostensibly no other plot to this movie.
That's another good quote.
It's just the plot twists. And same thing with the characterization. The characterization is entirely embedded in the past that they think they're peppering with us and the plot twist, and there's nothing in between. No one even, like we mentioned, no one even bothers to tell us what is the current status of these two people. And they're like, who cares?
Yeah. This is what I was saying about the editing, because like I agree with what you just said, Dave, that it's all twists. But for example, if you say that Gant was Sever's mentor and they had this sort of mentor-mentee relationship, but then he turns out that he's a villain and he's with this high technology and he's just in it for the money, that would be like a shocking betrayal. But because we don't know what their relationship is, we can't feel this betrayal. So if you edit out all of the actual plot and just leave in the twists, you've kind of got nothing there.
There's no emotional propulsion at all. Like these characters are not on any sort of emotional trajectory in relation to one another. It's all just sort of.
And there are parts to the twist that are dropped in the weird. Like we'll get to Act 3 when we get to Act 3, but at the very end, it's kind of mentioned that like Gant faked his death and became under a new name, and I'm like, wait, when the fuck did that happen? And it's like things are revealed at these weird, you can tell something was edited out, and then someone mentions it, and sometimes the plot twist, like the mention of it, is not a momentous moment. Like the momentous moment was something else they took out. And then it's getting repeated later. And you're like, wait, when did we find out that? That almost makes no sense. And we'll get to the dead wife part in Act 2 here, but it's a doozy and is also handled bizarrely. Even though I had to stop the movie and rewind because I was like, did I miss something? And no, I didn't miss anything. We had literally jumped from that scene to the next.
No rewinding.
Right. And I was like, wow. And again, I kind of was like, well, let's see where the movie goes with this. Maybe they'll give us more information. Kinda a little, but not nearly enough. So I do agree with Nick. It's interesting, Dallas. I actually hated the opening action scene. I thought the style was kind of there, but I'm like, this is poorly done. There's this one scene where she drives the giant trash truck out and just into this car. And I'm like, I thought it was the car everyone was in. Why else would you just drive it into this car like that? And no, it's just some other random. And I mean, they spend a lot of time on how she's driving into this car and destroying it. And then the people are just like in their car watching it happen. They don't get out. They're just like, what? And after this extended period of destruction, they're finally like, oh, maybe we should get out of our... And she drops smoke bombs, and then all the smoke is up, and then they decide to get out of the car. And I'm like...
Even just before that, Dave, there was a great bit where Ecks and another guy are in a car in another part of the city, and they hear on the police radio there's a woman shooting, and he goes, "It's her." Then they teleport directly to that location. Like they could have been on the other side of the city, but it doesn't matter. They get there in 10 seconds.
To wrap this up, we do have to talk about real quickly wine notions, but just to wrap this up, the first action, but the second
I'm too keen to get onto the second bit.
I know. We're almost there, Nick. That's one he gets to read, so we're gonna get there. But I did want to mention the second action set piece, the one that wraps up Act 1. That's when the movie hooked me. That was so over the top and so outlandish and so extended. And I'm like, we are 1/3 into this movie. This is amazing. I wonder what's coming next. And so that's where I was ultimately sold. Wine thoughts. Go ahead.
I was just going to say really quickly that I agree with you. And when Dallas used the word propulsive, I think the action is propulsive. The narrative is inert. And that's the thing is that when you take out that exposition, you don't cut down on the talking scenes. You just render the talking scenes you've got left irrelevant. You do need that connective tissue. But when we get to the action and some of those very Matrix-inspired slow-mo with long trench coats and sunglasses and bullet casings falling, but especially that one shot with the guy falling off the roof onto the car, I'm like, now I see why this guy was hired. Action-wise, he's really delivering the appropriately chaos.
Right. It is ballistic. The film is ballistic. Like, it truly does live up to that term, in my opinion. But the
narrative is weirdly, it's funny. I was thinking today about passive voice versus active voice in writing, right? And you're always supposed to, like, you can use passive voice artistically sometimes, but you're supposed to adhere mostly to active voice because otherwise there's no life to what you're described to, like the actions people are taking or why they're taking them. You're talking about it in a way that keeps the audience kind of distant. And the narrative in this movie is like all the backstory, even what people are doing and what they're discovering. It's all passive voice. Like from a filmic standpoint, it's all like they just sort of show up, but they're not taking action. They're just sort of showing up. And the thing is revealed because
when you take away that character motivation, it's no longer Ecks does this, Sever does this. It's this happens.
Right.
It happens.
That's that shift that you were just talking about from active to passive.
That happens, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. So, wine thoughts, guys. I'll kick us off here. You know, the style of this movie, it's slick. It's ballistic. It's cool. It's blacks and blues and steel colors, slow-mo, wirework galore, explosions. It's interesting because Equilibrium came out the same year, Underworld the next year. Like, this is where we were in
post-Matrix
film,
world.
in action film. Boondock Saints. Yes.
Right.
So I was thinking this is a Maligned movie. So maybe a Maligned grape. Something that like wine snobs turn their nose up at. Like, it's rarely great. It's something that you're like, if you really know what you're talking about wine, you're not going to drink that grape. Like, it's just not good enough. So maybe something considered silly, unserious, just like this movie, and something definitely, no matter what the Maligned grape was, I was thinking something dark, style over substance, not deep in richness and color maybe, but not complex, convoluted, but not necessarily complex. It's got a lot going. It's got a lot in it, but it's, that's where it's not taken that seriously, is the complexity, the elegance, that nuance. Those missing scenes that could have made this all complex rather than convoluted is missing. So something of that nature. Dallas, what were you thinking?
So, different route for me. I think this film lives up to exactly what it promises. It is, again, ballistic. It is in your face. It is sort of highly acidic. It is dark in not a very refined way, which is totally okay. And it is endlessly satisfying. And if anything, that is its dominant sort of feature. It's just really satisfying in terms of the production value, the explosions, the practical nature of the explosions specifically. Is the narrative interesting? Absolutely not. But it is so satisfying.
I disagree with that.
Interesting? No. I mean, I hate the word interesting, but I've used it like 3 times tonight. So I'm of two minds. I'm thinking something that is bold, because the film is bold in what it attempts to do, I suppose. And it's all the effects are practical. This is a big film. It feels like a big film, I should say. And it, in terms of the effects, it seems to punch above its weight. If we're thinking about that $35 million budget or $16 million budget, right, rather than the 75 that's credited, right, or that was originally credited. And so I'm of two minds. Either something sort of all right, I've said enough. Yeah.
Wait, you haven't said anything about the wine
yet.
What are you talking about?
I'm trying to sort of keep myself from getting too deep into it, but I will say this. This film leaves me, as you said, confounded, because I want and expect so much more from it for some reason. Meaning I would love this writing to be great, because if the writing were great with this level of production, this would have been a fucking phenomenal film. Yeah, that's all.
You shouldn't say anything, but okay.
I know.
All right, Nick, what were you thinking?
I know.
I'll save my wine thoughts to the end, I think, because it ties back into some things that you've been saying.
All right. Act 2. Take us to Act 2, Nick.
Ecks learns that Sever missed Giulio's heart by half an inch. He also noticed that she had fired bullets that just missed police officers during the most recent public shootout, one of many. And so Ecks comments that she doesn't miss. Ecks also learns that Gant stole an experimental weapon codenamed Soft Kill, a nanomachine which operates in the human circulatory system and can cause heart attacks in its victims at will while leaving no trace of its existence. The FBI tried to catch them in the act of smuggling the weapon back into Canada, but couldn't find it on Gant or any of his men. Meanwhile, Sever has Gant's son Michael in a cage, although she is taking care to keep him alive and well. We see that Soft Kill is implanted inside Michael. This is how Gant covertly smuggled it into North America. We also see Sever look up Ecks' presumed dead wife and discover that she's the same woman as, dun dun dun, Gant's ex-wife. Ecks is arrested by the Vancouver PD, oh good, they showed up finally, under the false pretense that he killed Martin, but is freed by Sever in a convoy attack. Another chase between the two ensues, but Sever eventually tells Ecks that she's on his side and gives him the location of his wife. Ecks meets Rain, aka Vin, the once believed dead wife. Is everyone following this? At an aquarium, where she reveals that her death was staged and orchestrated by Gant so that Rain would think Ecks had died and vice versa. Her name was changed to ostensibly protect her. Believing her husband Ecks died, she married Gant for reasons unknown. However, Rain reveals that Michael is actually X's biological son, not Gant's, and Sever's kidnapping was likely for the kid's protection. So that's a lot of stuff there, and this is also when the title of the movie starts to fall apart, because after Act 1 it is no longer Ecks versus Sever, it becomes Ecks and Sever, or Ecks Heart Sever, or pick something else here. But the movie abandons the conceit of its own title after the first act.
I will say it's after the second act, because this second action set piece is in Act 2, and they are still chasing each other and fighting each other. And Sever only knows that she knows where his wife is. He still isn't entirely convinced she's not an enemy. And it's only after the big... So there are basically 3 major action set pieces in this movie.
Yeah.
The one at the end of Act 1, this convoy attack / chase on the motorcycles. I had a few issues with this one where people just not only does he ride his motorcycle into this already completely collapsed pile of cars, and I'm like, stop, and then he hits it and just falls off, and I'm like, what did you think was going to happen? And then the cars behind him just ram into them and goes, and I'm like, that was the editing did not make it actually make sense, because I'm like, everyone would have put on their brakes or tried to avoid it, and no one did. But that second major set piece, they're still fighting each other, and it's only Act 3 that they team up, and it is the longest and biggest action set piece, which is the finale, but it's one of 3. So 2 of 3, they are fighting each other. I just want to put that out there.
I suppose, and I'm not saying that I wish that there was less action in this film, because again, the action is the best part of it, but realistically, they should have had a conversation rather than another fight scene. It certainly could have sorted a lot of things out quicker.
Conversation? Come on.
I agree, but they're both people of very few words.
Yeah,
I think these were, not that we learn much about their characters, so there's that, but these are, the little we know about them is that they speak only when absolutely fucking necessary in obnoxious ways. They're not good communicators. I think we can put that on the table.
And that's probably why there's such a large collateral damage to this film, because again, these people just could have communicated better. But
yes,
I'll throw it over to Dallas for Dallas's thoughts on Act 2.
I love Act 2. Again, it's going to be difficult to make me dislike anything about this film except the script. So
it's a big piece.
What'd you say?
It's a big piece.
It's a big piece. It's the biggest piece, in fact, some would say. This whole act just... I agree. If they had just had a conversation, just to check in, it might have been a much shorter film, a much less explosive film, but just to check in. I agree. I'd like to see that version.
We do see that Lucy Liu had to look up his wife to figure out what was going on. And then I'm sure because she was used to be work for Gant that she suddenly figured out all of this, the moment she saw her face. Yeah. But nevertheless, she was trying not to kill the FBI or police officer. Anyone who wasn't a Gant stooge, she was trying not to kill. So, she could have talked to him as well. But then I think she was also convinced that no one, she had to do all this crazy machinations because Gant was so embedded, and this is the only way to take him down. It's a little bit comic booky logic, 100%, but kind of works in this type of movie. I do have to say that
I have to say that reading exposition off screens is not the most elegant of storytelling.
No.
Then I'll also say, why did Sever need to keep X's son Michael in a cage? Couldn't she have put him up in more luxurious digs? Because the whole first half of this movie keeps trying to set up Sever as the bad guy.
Yeah,
right.
But not really. And then my other question is, does the soft kill nano machine come kind of out of nowhere?
I mean, yes.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It was funny. We know from the rewrites that it was something that was inserted into the script. Like it wasn't
Yes.
a part of the original scripts. But I understand why, because once you need something for like, why are you fighting? And then of course they're going to team up. I mean,
it's a classic. It's a classic Hitchcockian MacGuffin. The soft kill
Yes.
only
It is
exists
a
to
MacGuffin,
bring
that's true.
everybody to Vancouver
Together.
for no real reason.
Yes.
Together, that's
right.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's very comic booky, you know, whenever you have a comic book where it's like Captain America versus Spider-Man, and it's like, that means they're going to fight and then team up. And whenever you
Yes.
have a Captain America teams up with Spider-Man, that means they're going to fight and then team up. Like, it doesn't matter how you say it, team up or fight. It's always going to be a fight and then a team up. And this
Absolutely.
movie is doing that to a T, where it's like, that's what you do when you have two technical protagonists, is you're going to have them fight because that's fun, and they're cool, and they have all these abilities, and you want to see them go at it with each other. But then neither of them are a true villain, so you have to then have them team up. So maybe it's because of my comic booky background in my youth. I accepted the fact that they were going to team up. That's where this was going, unless the movie had come up with a reason where even if neither was a bad guy, like maybe the dead wife who was still alive, and then whatever Sever was trying to do, like those goals were at odds. And that could have been something to keep them versing each other all the way to the bitter end. That could have been better written, no question, to make it a true versus all the way to the bitter end.
That's that's an understatement. Yeah, that is an understatement. But I do agree. This book, this film is so comic booky. It is so comic booky from the beginning. And so
These
you're right.
names,
I am
Ecks,
Yeah,
Sever,
Ecks,
Rain
Sever,
with a
Ballistic,
Y. I'm
all
like,
of it.
Jesus Christ,
All
could
of
you
it.
be more 90s comic book?
right. Just
I mean,
on the
also,
nose.
it's Jeremiah X. He gets a first name, but Sever never gets a first name. She's just Sever. She is literally like a comic book character.
Yeah.
She just has
Right.
one name.
I think that's the origin of her China. What's it?
Well, I wonder. I wonder if she ever had a full name, because they took her as a kid and just probably gave her a code name.
That's what I'm saying. That's probably just a code name, right? But maybe in once I start this petition for the sequel for Lucy Liu and Antonio Banderas to team up again, we'll get some backstory on it.
I doubt they would ever want to team up for a sequel to this
You gotta
movie.
team up.
I think everyone is trying to forget this movie to the best of their ability.
I'm gonna die on this hill.
time.
If we're going to do relaunches, rebrandings, or remakes, do them of bad films and make them good.
This is something like Dallas is making a point that I often go on, like, don't remake good films.
Yes.
Remake bad films and do a better job of them. You're
Sure.
never
And
going
a
to do a
remake,
better
yes,
version
a
of
direct
Escape
sequel.
from.
I don't know
You're
about
never going
that.
to remake. You're never going to do a better version of Escape from New York. Stop bothering. Pick a bad movie and try and do a better job next time.
Right.
You know what? You're also never going to make a better job. Jurassic Park. Stop making sequels. Just stop.
Stop making
Please.
sequels. That's right.
It's done. We did it. It's amazing.
We did
It still holds
And,
up.
and speaking of
Stop.
comic books, like Marvel has spent the last 20 years trying to remake
Yes.
Blade. It's like, you're not going to
Yes.
do a better version of Blade than the
true.
Wesley Snipes one. Just give it away.
And it still holds up. It just fucking still holds up. Anyway.
Yeah, and that's the problem with that. I will say in Act 2, this scene where he shows up at the aquarium, that's the scene I had to rewind. And
really?
be like, wait, how the fuck did we get... Like, because he just shows up, and it's like, Ecks gave him the note that she was going to be there, or that she was going to be at the house, and then he follows her there. But then she looks at him and just knows who it is, and I'm like, again, the film, to Nick's point, the film does a shitty job of setting you up to understand what's happening in any given scene. So he shows up, she recognizes him and is like, oh my God, Jeremiah. And I'm like, what? Why you? I thought maybe you had memory loss or something, and that's why you married someone else and whatever. But then she recognized him. Like, then why were you with us? And then, of course, finally in Act 3, we're revealed that there was both death. They faked his death to her, and they faked her death to him.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got to discuss that.
Okay. And neither of them investigated any further.
Apparently.
Right. The investigator didn't even investigate further.
Yeah, you had one job as an FBI or a CDI, I can't remember, he's the
to be
FBI
fair, they
guy,
don't know
right?
they're in a movie, right? So it is that thing where it's like when people die in real life, nobody investigates. Not
But
really.
here's the thing.
If you
If
think
he-
they like OD'd, you investigate who gave them the fucking drugs. You don't investigate if they OD'd.
Okay, but also he's also the one guy who could crack this crazy fucking case,
But
and he didn't
I'm with
investigate
it,
any further.
But I'm
Come on.
with the movie that he was too sad to do it.
Okay, all right. He was, all right.
So I actually quite liked the scene in the aquarium because it was one of the few moments that were quiet and emotional. But
Yes.
again, the problem is that deprived
got
of the
there.
backstory
Yeah.
that explains
Yes.
the emotional stakes and how everybody got to
Yes.
that place, both
Yeah.
physically and emotionally,
Yes.
the scene doesn't deliver as it should. In
Correct.
the original, I don't know, 115-minute cut of this film, that could have been a really moving scene. But at the time, it's a bit confusing. But there's pretty shots of fish.
Yes. And a different color scheme for like a hot couple minutes.
Yeah, it's
for
blue
once.
instead of grey.
Exactly. It's something. It's a color. It's an actual color. So yeah, I agree with you on that. Like that scene, like it's a good scene, but it was more the transition that I had to rewind. Where like I felt like I looked away for 30 seconds. And
You missed the note,
crucial
did you?
must have happened.
Yeah, you missed the
Yeah.
cut.
And then and then I went back and I was like, no, they just showed up at the aquarium. Okay, cool. And here we are. All right, Dallas, you got to tell us something about
Okay,
your wine.
so here's what I meant the last time, and I'll give you more detail now about being of two minds, because there's one experience with this film. It is pure enjoyment. It is sort of hedonistic. You don't need to ask questions about logic or great plot or characters having motivation, because they're almost unnecessary, because this film is just about the explosions. Yeah, it's just
Almost.
about the fucking explosions, and they are so satisfying and delicious. And on top of that, the nonsense in the script, in the characters, in the sort of the screenplay, I suppose, if you can call it that. It's absurd enough that it does kind of add a layer of sweetness. I'm not really upset by any of the nonsense that happens in this film. It kind of makes me chuckle. If it were a better film that, attempted to do something grander, I'd be upset. But when it's Ecks versus Sever, it makes me think of pure enjoyment when it comes to wine. So something like a wine cordial, even something like a mulled wine. But on the other end, it's bold, it is bloody, it is acidic. I'm thinking something that kind of stands up in the middle of the road, like a Cab Sauv. So I'm between those two right now.
Okay. All right. And yeah, for me, I mean, I'm still on that whole, it's got to be something silly, crazy, over the top. Something that, this movie is, and especially in Act 2 with the plot twist, like the action, there's still a lot of action, but it actually it dials down a little bit in Act 2. It's almost nothing but action in Act 3.
Yeah.
And then they try to give us some story. And I mean, it's all just mind-numbingly batshit. It's all like, this was one of my favorite plot twists in a movie back then. I have no idea how well this holds up either, but was Wolfgang Petersen's Shattered. I saw that in the theater back in the day, and I fucking loved that ending. That one and Dead Again were like the two that I was like, whoa, my God, I didn't know you were. And I love those plot twists. And this was one of those movies where Act 2 is like constantly trying to throw that type of plot twist at you, but it's not earned. Right? We haven't actually gotten there yet. We haven't been on the journey with these characters for long enough. We've mostly been sidetracked with the action. But nevertheless, even though those moments aren't earned and this is silly and over the top, it kind of works.
Yes.
It all kind of works as what this movie is. Is it great writing, great cinema? No. But it really does entertain in a way that you're like, I mean, you can nitpick it, but at the same time, you're like, okay, I mean, I am following it more or less. I'm questioning how we get to where we're getting. But once the movie spends 5 minutes there, you're like, I mean, that basically makes sense, I guess. Okay, we didn't set it up, but okay, sure, keep going. So I was thinking of wine. The wine needs to be hedonistic, like this movie, like something big over the top, but authentically enjoyable. So it won't be everyone's style, much like this movie, but it should be a wine that does work on its own terms. So everything I said before, but something honestly, it's good, it's enjoyable. Okay. So that's where I was there. All right, folks. Act 3, the all-action third act. This is going to be quick.
I can't believe that someone mentioned 2 Tom Berenger movies in one podcast.
Hey, that's what we do here, buddy. That's what we do here.
Like I said, he was an A-lister in the 90s, okay? He made a lot of movies then.
80s.
80s, yeah.
Well, Sniper, Shattered. I mean, these Shattered was 90s, right? It was early 90s.
91,
90s.
Yeah. It's still like a bit of an 80s hangover.
80s hangover. There you go.
All right. Ecks, Rain, and Sever go to Sever's secret underground bunker in an abandoned train yard where they are besieged by Gant and his minions. Everything explodes. Everything. Doesn't matter if it's tied down. Doesn't matter if there's literally nothing that could make the damn thing explode. It all still explodes. Ross, Ray Park, and Sever have a decent martial arts hand-to-hand fight. This fight would have been, previs and given more time for the actors to practice in the modern era. Like, if this was truly 87-11 nowadays, this would have been so much more, but we were not that picky in the 2000s, let me tell you, not us Westerners. So I was pretty happy with this fight. I'm like, yeah, I know this thrilled me back in the day. Ecks and Sever eventually gain the upper hand, resulting in Gant attempting to retrieve the soft kill from his son's arm, or X's son's arm, but he's surprised to find that it isn't there anymore. Sever then kills Gant using a soft kill loaded bullet. I mean, that's it. It's basically one long action sequence. There's nothing else to say.
There's
about
20 minutes
act.
of explosions, some of them incredibly dangerous, one that almost hit Antonio Banderas, after which he joked that he was ready to play the Phantom of the Opera if it had gone off a second earlier.
Was that the one where he's running after stepping off the landmine?
Yeah. And you can. And it's all in slow-mo, so you can see. It's like that famous shot in Hard Boiled, where Chow Yun-Fat is literally running from all the pyrotechnics that were blowing up right behind him, and you can see the genuine terror on his face. It's an amazing part of the movie, but apparently he was very unhappy with John Woo after that.
Yeah, and to be fair, even that, I was like, whoa. I wondered, because you can see it's him. Fire
and you can see the explosion, sort of fire goes over him. Yeah, and the fire definitely hits him, and then in like pretty much the same shot, like the pipes all land on him, and I'm like, wow, that was intense and impressive. It's one of the things that I kind of like about Ecks versus Sever. When I mentioned earlier when the summary mentioned earlier here in Act 1 that he's like a brawler, he gets out by the skin of his teeth, whereas Sever is very methodical. She's very precise. She's like, I only put myself in certain ways of danger that I know I can get out of. That's kind of her MO. And he's the guy who just steps on a landmine and is like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And it's like, you can't get out of the way. It's like, dude, you're the one standing on it. How are they getting out of the way and you're getting out of the way? But he's like, here we go, and just runs. And so what you're saying, Dave, is that 80 minutes into this 90-minute movie, we're getting some important character backstory.
Finally.
Yes. Exactly. Some characterization, some minutia between the two of them. But, this final fight, it starts roughly 1 hour, just a little over the 1 hour mark. So there's a full 30 minutes left of this movie. Now, it actually only runs about 14 minutes because I did the Action Junkie score that I do on Letterboxd, and I clocked all the time on these things. So it was like 14 minutes with 6 minutes of denouement, and then, of course, all the credits and blah, blah, blah. So it's not that long. But the final act really is this 14 minutes of just nonstop action. And I didn't count all the stuff with Gant and his son because there's no real action going on there. It's all, the wrapping it up. And there's just, she fires one shot and he's out and he's done. So it's like, that's not action. That doesn't count. But when you include that plus a little bit of denouement at the very end, this was a satisfying wrap up. No matter what you can say about the story leading up to it, like this does kind of pull it all together. Even if you're kind of like at the end, I was like, wait, were they married?
That doesn't matter. Don't ask those questions.
I had to ask these questions because I'm like, I don't think the movie ever really specified half these things, but it doesn't kind of matter.
Right.
You can just keep going. So, Nick, your thoughts on the big wrap up?
Yeah, so a lot of that, like the train thing where they'd hidden 500 extra guns around the train yard, that was like, there were some good explosions there. But I did actually like what you were just saying about the final sort of the Ray Park versus Lucy Liu showdown. That was definitely a satisfying climax to the film. Now, as you said, if this had been a modern 87-11 film, they would have spent 6 months training her up like they did with Shiraz on before, like Atomic Blonde or something like that.
Yeah.
It was pretty good for what it was, considering you've got a veteran martial artist in Ray Park, and like I was saying, an actress
Sex and the City cool lady. Or Ally McBeal. Ally McBeal.
Yeah. Don't demean her by saying she was on Sex and the City. But yeah, someone who's had a background in more like comedies and dramas. She'd only just recently sort of made the transition to becoming like an action star. But that delivered a sort of emotional satisfaction there.
Yes.
And so the film kind of comes together at the end. But once again, the problem with the writing and the editing is that you shouldn't need to wait till like the end before like you really start to understand and feel the stakes. I felt the ending it ended strong, but we needed more earlier in the movie as well.
100%,
so it finished strongly. It started very weak and confusingly, at least plot and emotionally stakes-wise.
Yeah,
agreed. Dallas, anything to add?
Act 3 is just, it's the perfect wrap-up. It's the perfect punctuation. It makes slightly more sense than the previous acts. And because it's still kind of in that specter, it's satisfying. I keep coming back to satisfying. It just, everything works about it. My favorite thing is Lucy Liu, and I didn't write down the time signature, but she delivers a comical karate chop at one point that I had to stop. Actually, I'll go ahead and confess, Dave. I too rewound this film to see if I saw Lucy Liu give an unapologetic, comical karate chop to someone's neck, and they immediately fell down. I was like, yeah, that was the moment. It was at the beginning of Act 3. But that was the moment when I was like, yeah, no, I love this film. I love this film. I'm no longer looking for anything to make sense or logic or any script to sort of, the economy of the script to come through. No, this film is just fantastic. Act 3 is exactly what it needs to be. And it sets up the sequel very nicely.
You're pitching around Hollywood, are you, Dallas?
Yes.
I mean, I will still kind of say that, like, the movie does make sense. Like, there's nothing that's just, like, glaringly... The gaps in getting there are huge leaps. So they're leaps in logic, they're leaps in narrative. They don't not make sense. They're just, like... the payoff is weird because we just sort of show up there. And it's like, yeah, here's a twist. And you're like, thanks. There's nothing about it that couldn't be true, but okay, that's a
lot of acrobatics.
I mean, like, nothing doesn't make sense. I feel like we're using that phrase too loosey-goosey, like as a catch-all, to be like things that are wrong with the plot in terms of it being effective, but that's not the same as it not making sense. It's just not an effective narrative, emotional. Again, to Nick's more specific points, like to emotionally and narratively, there's a lot missing from this, but not to the point.
The film
where
has structural problems,
sense.
But it's not that it's completely incoherent.
Yeah, no, not completely incoherent. But it is.
Don't ask ChatGPT that. But yeah,
there's damning with faint praise. No, it's more the fact that, again, you have to sort of get to the end and then sort of look back and kind of fill in the gaps yourself. Like I was saying before, like why did, even after she thought her husband was dead, why did X's wife marry Gant? What's their relationship there? Right. I said, what's that relationship between Gant and Sever?
She did have one line that she married him because she thought she could protect them and that was necessary. Yeah. She doesn't really extrapolate on that, but she does have that one line.
She's not much of a character. And as I said, I don't think it's the best thing to play Sever as this almost mute. But when you get to the end, I think that it finishes strong. You feel like you know who the characters are by then, and that there is a bit of catharsis there at the end.
You heard it here first, by the way, guys. Nick said, watch Act 3 first.
No,
well, actually,
it won't make sense if you just watch. That's like editing it down even further. That's not helpful.
We started off talking about those reviews, and it was just like a comical pile-on. Like who could damn this film with the most cruel and cutting epithets?
Right.
And again, I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I don't think it's actually that bad. And if you think this is a terrible film that doesn't make sense, count yourself blessed you've not seen many truly terrible films that don't make sense.
True. This is very true.
Yes. Yeah. There's so many more hair-pulling movies. And this one, and again, it delivers on certain fronts, for sure. The action front, the style front, all that fun stuff, which if you're looking for an early OO's movie that's just like kind of a rollicking good time with Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu, like strutting their stuff, like leaning into the absurdity of their characters.
Here's a comparison that Dave will appreciate. Here's a good early someone. I think Dallas mentioned Equilibrium before, but Dave, how about Corey Yun's So Close from 2002,
which I love.
Like I know you do. If you can get into that incredibly of the moment early 2000s idea of cool. There's a lot to enjoy. Like the music in this, I think it's gone all the way around, and I actually really liked it.
We should talk about the music a second.
Probably technically terrible, but I really liked that combination of electronica and sort of bad rock.
It's so fitting. It is so.
But we were all alive in 2002. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And another sort of Matrixy comparison. The Matrix soundtrack was so popular.
Well, they also hired Don Davis, the composer of The Matrix, to score this film.
Right. And that was my next point. It's the idea
sorry, I cut you off there.
No, it's all good.
But that was the guy they let go, they got rid of, right?
Yes.
Once
again, the thing is that when you re-edit a film, like there probably was like a 115-minute original cut that he would have scored. But when you recut a film, the music is timed to the cut. So you have to get rid of the music along with that version of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember there was an interview with the composer of The Abyss, the James Cameron movie. And was that Horner? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, Horner. He usually works with Horner, yeah.
He was Horner. And Horner was like, it was one of those things where they almost had a huge falling out because James Cameron would not stop editing the fucking thing. And Horner was like, you have to stop. You can't keep sending me new edits. Like, it's like, I can't come. And Cameron apparently did not really. He's like, it's not ready. Like, I have to keep working on it. You have to just keep changing. And he's like, it's not just changing one thing. Like all the music has to change with it. Like you can't send me completely new edits of a scene. It's like that. I'm starting almost essentially from scratch when you do that. So, but yeah, there's directors don't always understand that, whether it's producers re-editing it or directors.
That's the case of a director who still had final cut. He's just, James Cameron is famously not that sensitive about other people. He's a genius, but he's got some sensitivity issues.
Yes, 100%. All right, Dallas, final wine thoughts after Act 3. And actually, guys, every listener, you heard it here first. Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever, may be worth your time.
Great film of all time.
That bad. That is high praise for the lowest ranked movie on Rotten Tomatoes. And two of us, at least, me and Dallas, actually really enjoy watching this. Nick, how much, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put your enjoyment levels of having seen this?
Yeah, I mean, when I write my reviews on Letterboxd, I acknowledge that I'm only ever subjective, but I try and look at things a little bit objectively. And objectively, this film has a lot of problems. Yes. But subjectively, I have to say I had a good time watching it.
All right.
There you go.
See?
All right.
So
That's this
was
film,
it
yes.
entertaining as a movie? Yes, it was.
Yes.
Was it well written, constructed, and directed? No.
Isn't that stunning?
But again,
It's
this
so
is
fascinating when
thing
that
about-
happens. So yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the whole thing about why ratings can sometimes be a bit misleading.
Yes.
So if I
Yes.
rate something 2.5 stars, it's not that I hated it.
Right.
I might have really enjoyed it, but I'm also saying, beware, this film's not for everybody.
Yes.
This isn't
Dallas.
exactly like the Matrix here.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So let's get into some wine here. As I said, I'm of two minds, and to pick up with what Nick was saying, it is on one hand, it is wonderfully enjoyable and satisfying, and it's explosive, it's ballistic, it gives you all the sort of, middle of the road things of a great action film. On top of that, the action set pieces themselves are really well done when you consider how much explosive content there really is in this film. There is a lot of explosive content in this film. It is kinetic when they are fighting. Sure, you get the occasional karate chop. Yeah, okay. But as Dave was saying, there is a comic book sort of nature underlying this film. It is a fully sort of in-your-face film. It's a little dark. It's kind of acidic to me. It doesn't necessarily require a whole lot of chewing. There isn't a whole lot to chew on in terms of the script. So on one hand, I'm thinking Cab Sauv, and that was eventually my pairing. It's got some heart, even though you kind of have to wait until Act 3 to see it. So it kind of opens up. It requires a little time, and
You got to have faith in the story. You just got to see where it takes you. Yeah, yeah.
But that's the problem. I don't know if it's faith in the story, because I don't know if the story invites a whole lot of faith in Act 1.
It doesn't. That's why you have to have faith.
To stick to right. You have to stick to
You
the
don't-
ride.
If it's faith,
to the
someone
ride.
doesn't invite it. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to stick to the ride, because it's a ride and it's satisfying once it gets there. So anyway, I went with the Precision Cab Sauv. It is all the things you expect from a cab, from a Sauv. It's bold. It is. This one's highly acidic, and I think this film's kind of acidic too, because as we discussed, there isn't. These characters kind of interact with very little conversation. It's all just very sharp slaps and stabs, and it's just acute in that way. And yeah, it's a Cab Sauv for me. I will say it was going to be a mulled wine, a Danish mulled wine, in fact, because it has everything in the glass, and none of it should make sense together, but it's fucking fantastic. So I went with the 2023 Precision Cab Sauv.
And where is that from?
And that is, you can find it actually right now, just about anywhere, but it's a Napa Cab.
Napa Cab. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and we will have. I'll look up the price point. We'll have an AI-free Google search link in the description of this episode, so you can click it conscience-free and see if you can find it anywhere near you. All right, Nick, what do you have for us tonight?
All right, so the wine I selected is a St. Hallett's Faith Shiraz, and this is a winery from the Barossa Valley, which, as I'm sure you guys know, is Australia's oldest and most prestigious wine region. St. Hallett's was founded in 1944, and they do specialise in Shiraz. Faith, it's a classic dry Shiraz with all the usual cherry and spice notes that you'd expect. However, what is different is that this is not a maligned grape, like Dave was talking about earlier, but a maligned packaging. Yes, gentlemen, this fine wine is available as a cask, or as some no doubt highly paid marketing guru has dubbed it, a Bagnum.
Ah, yes.
Nice. Bagnum.
Bag.
A bag and a Bagnum
yes.
is a 1.5 liters.
It is, that's right.
There's gotta
So,
be, right?
as you guys also know, for better or for worse, one of Australia's contributions to the world of wine was the invention of the cask, commonly known here as goon or chateau cardboard. This was invented back in 1964, although only after Wynns invented the cask with a built-in tap in 1971 did it really take off. The inventor, Thomas Angrove, was inspired by the wine skins of ancient times, which were made with animal skins.
Yes.
And since, Dave, I believe you were talking earlier about using pine resin to steel ancient wine jars, or amphora, if you will,
Yep.
a modern approach to the same sort of thinking was how to keep wine fresh. Now, over the decades, Goon has developed a bad reputation as a cheap, low-quality booze.
Cheap goon.
While connoisseurs will always
something
prefer
else
taste
too,
from
buddy.
the bottle. I know. This is a very Australian term, Goon. There's a lot of negative cultural associations with it being a drink for students, hence the very popular game Goon of Fortune, which you may or may not have heard of.
Nope. That's funny.
Well, that's when you attach a bunch of goon bags to a rotary clothesline or Hill's hoist and spin them around, and whoever it lands on has to drink for a certain amount of time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And going back to the Retsina thing, that's what all the college kids, they were cheap,
right.
shitty wine there too. Yeah.
And in Australia, cheap university students drink Goon. And, of course, the other good thing about Goon is that once you've drunk it, you can inflate the bag with air and use it as a pillow when you're crashed out on the floor.
Fantastic. The ingenuity.
So there have been,
Right.
That's right. It's the Australian ingenuity. So there have been attempts in recent years to salvage the reputation of cask wine. And so this actually, the stuff I've got here, this Hallett's Faith Shiraz, it's exactly the same as you can get in the bottle. And they're very keen to emphasize that. When I sort of first broke the seal, I could taste a little metallic bit to it, which I think obviously comes from the fact that it's not in glass. It's in aluminium, whatever it is in there. But overall, it is actually very drinkable. And of course, the trade-off is the convenience, because you can enjoy a glass or two and keep it fresh for several weeks as well, too. So I wanted to find out that, like this movie, something that has a terrible reputation, Goon, could be, if not entirely great, then not as bad as its reputation suggests. So once again, I'm not going to say Ecks versus Sever was an entirely successful movie, but it was entertaining and it was fun to talk about. And I'm not going to say that cask wine is as good as bottled wine. I don't think it is. But it's not bad, very drinkable. For a lot of palates, it will be more than satisfactory, and you can have a great time doing it.
Right.
I will say, in possible defense of the Goon, they did a study. It was with aluminum cans, but they finally did an age study with the same wine in a bottle and the same wine in an aluminum can. And I think they did 6 months and a year, and there was no discernible difference between the wines anymore, between one or the other. And what might be possible, though, when you said you had a metallic taste, is the metallic taste, are you still tasting it?
No, I think it might have gone away. It's gone away. It was just like the first couple of sips were quite metallic. And I wonder if that was the seal or if it was, I'm not sure.
It's actually because it's too well preserved in the bag. Unlike
it
the
needs
cork.
to breathe, does it?
Yes, exactly. So the cork, of course, allows that to some degree. So the gases in there are constantly getting out. Whereas in a can or in a bag or even a screw top, if it's the type of screw top that lets nothing in and out, those can be too well preserved, at which point there will be some kind of like weird stuff going on with the wine initially, but then that blows off pretty quickly. So,
right. Of course, that was a big thing when they replaced, or the industry started moving away from corks to screw tops.
Right.
They brought in all these big wine connoisseurs / wankers and asked them to taste the difference, if they could, between screw top and cork. And of course, they couldn't, or they said the screw top tasted better. But having drunk a lot of screw top wines, I've never had that metallic kind of taste that I got with this one. But it does seem to have gone away now that I've had it for a couple of days and taken a few glasses out of it.
So the lesson
Beautiful.
here is, guys, is even if you get your wine in a bag, let it breathe a little bit.
Well, and depending on when you had the screw tops or when the test was done too, screw tops these days do allow air in and out. Like they have a technology in them now that, so it's not like it used to be in the early days. All right. So I think for me, there were a number of wines that could have fit the bill for Ballistic. Something obviously maligned by wine snobs. There's a lot of them. Considered bad, rarely great or complex as a wine. There are grapes, two of my favorites. Or actually, let's take a white grape first. So like Sauvignon Blanc would be a great one. Which, if it's grown outside of France, most wine snobs kind of stick their nose up to it. So like New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is often considered too one note. And California Sauvignon Blanc, way too fruity and tropical and unbalanced. against, like, most wine snobs are like, oh, it's New World, it's California, it's not the same thing. So Sauvignon Blanc could have worked if I wanted a white wine, but oh my God, did I not want a white wine with this movie. I wanted something big, dark, bold. Two of my favorite grapes out there, Pinotage and Petit Syrah. Either of those could have been perfect. I'm actually drinking a Petit Syrah right now, and it's what I drank at the end of the movie. And it's beautiful. Petit Syrah it's a thick-skinned, dark grape. It makes bold, ink black wines with an intensity of fruit, tannins, bittersweetness. And if it's from, and this is the best part, because we were doing this with Nick today, Petit Syrah, California and Australia make most of the world's Petit Syrah. So, and Israel apparently is number 3. So those are the 3 places. Yay! Those are the 3 places right now. California makes 80% of the world's Petit Syrah these days, with Australia leading in number 2. They call it Durif over there more than Petit Syrah, more often than Petit Syrah. That was actually the wine trivia question of the week, if you remember that, Nick, from back when you were
I do actually, I got that one.
Yeah, for Miracle Mile. And most of California, Petit Syrah has been genetically traced back to being the Durif version of Petit Syrah from Australia. So we brought it over from you guys and got all of our Petit Syrah from that, almost all of our Petit Syrah from that.
Thanks, Australia.
Yeah, even though the whole thing comes from the Rhone. So it's like, but they barely grow it anymore over there. So it's not really a thing. So guys, if you want to go find a Petit Syrah to pair with this movie, I'm not going to stop you. I think it would be perfect. Whether it's an Australian Durif, whether it's Cali Petit Syrah, any of them, I think would match Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever. But I think there is an easier wine to get your hands on, and one that leans more heavily into the hedonistic element of the film. So let's talk Zinfandel. And you could do a Cali Zinfandel. That would work well. Turley out of Paso Robles is known for some of the best Zinfandel in the world, though they have a price point that proves it. You know, nothing crazy, but we're talking like $40-$60 a bottle, so it ain't cheap. But I think you go old world. I think you do Italian Zinfandel, which they call Primitivo. Primitivo is predominantly from Puglia. This is a very pugilistic film, so Puglia, however you want to pronounce it. Find yourself a Puglia Primitivo, fruity, ripe, slightly herbaceous, as most Old World wine is going to be compared to New World wine. Likely higher in ABV, because Zinfandel and Primitivo, it grows ripe super fast. Puglia is a hot climate for Italy. But there's a way to take this. So any Puglia Primitivo, if you find that, I think that's going to work really well with this movie. But there's a way to take it to yet the next level even then. Trader Joe's has a Puglia Primitivo that's Appassimento, quote unquote, in style, meaning partially dehydrated or partially raisined grapes are what they use to make the wine. This concentrates the flavors and the sugars for an even riper, jammier, bolder, and higher ABV than normal fucking Zinfandel, which is already at the top of all those things. So this is the Patroferno Appassimento Puglia Primitivo for $12.99 at Trader Joe's. And this motherfucker clocks in at 15% ABV, nice and high. It's hedonism in a glass as far as fine red wine goes. And it is style as substance, just like this movie. And this is without question my perfect pairing for Ecks versus Sever. Puglia Primitivo or Appassimento Puglia Primitivo or Petit Syrah. Get yourself a nice big bold red like Dallas's and whatnot. Even like Nick's, I'm betting that's not super light or easy as a red, Nick. How would you?
No, it's a very unsubtle Shiraz. But I also think
Shiraz.
that probably the higher volume of alcohol, the more you'll enjoy Ballistic Ecks versus Sever.
Can't disagree.
Gorgeous. All right, man. Thanks so much for joining us once again, Nick. And thank you for joining us for this one. This meant a lot to us because we wanted to watch this movie.
Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
No. I'm wrapping up.
It's also like, I mean, I can enjoy writing reviews of bad movies, but I think I love the fact that there are people who are going to champion what is critically maligned, and it was great to get a chance to watch this 0% film on Rotten Tomatoes and only reaffirm all my prejudices that Rotten Tomatoes is full of shit.
Yeah, agreed.
You heard that?
You heard it
You're
here
not
first.
I'm sure you've heard that everywhere.
Yeah.
You've heard that many times before.
All right. Nick, tell our listeners, where can they find you? We're going to have the collab club link down below, guys, if you want to join our Letterboxd club that we're a part of together. And where else should they look for you? Or is Letterboxd the place?
Letterboxd is absolutely the place, although I'm a roving itinerant podcast guest as well, too. So
true.
In a week or so, I'm going to be recording the third of our unloved James Bond series with Caliber 9 from Out of Space.
Yeah.
So we're championing the Bond films that at least the Letterboxd community has.
Which two this time?
This time we're doing On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was hated for decades, but then had a bit of a critical turnaround. And of course, many people still struggle with George Lazenby. Yeah. And then we're going to the most unloved Bond of them all, which is Roger Moore. And this time we're covering Octopussy, the stupidest Bond title of all
Justice
time.
for Roger Moore, man. Justice
but
for Roger Moore.
Also the most memorable Bond title of all time. Let's just be honest.
True. That's a fact.
True.
That's a fact.
And we love Roger Moore too, so we're going to talk up at least Octopussy as well. I remember struggling a bit with On Her Majesty's Secret Service last time I saw it, but it's been a few years, so I'll be interested to return to that one.
And I will say, Nick, when you turned me on to Man from Hong Kong with Lazenby, and that he's so good in that movie. And I remember struggling with Her Majesty's Secret Service, but he was very young when he made that one.
He was. Too. And you know the other interesting story about George Lazenby is that on the day of his death, George Lazenby was in Hong Kong to meet Bruce Lee, and they were due to have dinner together because he was in discussion about, according to him, and he's a guy who's been known to embellish his life story. He says that he was in discussion to play one of the antagonists in Game of Death.
Nice.
Huh.
As Bruce had completed 3 of the fight scenes before he died, but he'd planned on 5. So,
and having seen him go against Jimmy Wang Yu and Man from Hong Kong, that would have.
And he was a student of Jeet Kune Do, so he actually could. He's not an expert, but he could fight a bit.
Yeah,
so,
he could. He could. I was impressed.
Interesting.
Wow. There's the Dave seal of approval.
There you go. All right, guys. Now to wrap this up, many thanks to our sponsor, the place where our wine cellar cinema that we mentioned earlier takes place, the micro cinema inside a wine shop, Curated Wine Shop. No idea where to begin finding a wine that pairs with your movie? That's okay. Almost literally no one does, but Curated is here to help. They accept every Vintertainment-inspired challenge and will curate the selection to match your palate. Just tell them what you're trying to pair with, your budget, your preferences, and they will show you the way. Curated is, as I said before, a boutique wine shop on La Brea Avenue, Mid-City, Los Angeles, founded and operated by peeps currently and previously part of the entertainment ecosystem. Johnny, Kelly, Allison, and Mia. Right now, it's me, too. I've actually been working 2 weeks there behind the counter, so my time has been weird lately. Allison is in Europe, and I've been working behind the counter, so who knows? Maybe me too. We're going to find out, at least for Wine Cellar Cinema. Maybe I'm behind the counter there too going forward. We're going to find out. Go meet them. They carry an ever-changing, wide-ranging selection of small lot artisanal wines, from the known and comforting to the completely unique reds, whites, rosés, oranges, sparklings, dry wines, sweet wines, and everything in between. Go check them out if you're in the LA area. You can find them online at curated-wines.com. They do ship, so you can find them and have them ship. Well, they ship within the U.S. I don't think they ship overseas. That's right. I don't think you want them to ship you wine overseas. It's a bad idea, guys. Just don't do that. But find them curated-wines.com and vintertainmentstudios.com for us Vintertainment bros, and winecellarcinema.substack.com for all things Wine Cellar Cinema. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We will be back in 1 week with one more wine and entertainment pairing for your entertainment, and then we're taking a 1 month break while we actually stockpile some of these recordings. We're going to get ahead of ourselves for once and take a little bit of a summer break, but we have one last film coming next week where we take a $7,000 film that has really been hitting it big on the festival circuit, and we are going to cover that next week before we take a brief hiatus. So join us then. We'll check you then. Ciao for now.
Later, guys.